Baron.
Huh? What? Yeah, I'm awake. Wait, who are you?
I am the Burger King.
Oh, I always thought you weren't real, like the Tooth Fairy, or my chances of ever finding love.
Oh ho ho ho! Not only am I real, but I bring you a challenge.
Of course you do. Go on then, hit me with it.
Well, it goes a little like...
Can you beat Elden Ring as the Burger King? 34. That's the number of sponsorship offers I've had since my channel took off. It's also the number of sponsorship offers I've turned down, because I'd rather bring you my content than try to sell you a VPN or some glorified protein shakes. But when Burger King QA approached me and challenged me to beat Elden Ring by flame grilling everything in sight, while giving me the freedom to do a video exactly the way I normally would, I couldn't say no to such a tasty offer. So, here are the rules they gave me. I can only damage enemies using flame spells or weapon arts to flame grill them. Yum. Buffs and parries are allowed, and I have to collect all remembrances. No problem. So, what am I classing as flame spells? Well, firstly, Blood Flame is off the menu, because it also does blood damage, and, well, that's not fire damage. Otherwise, if it's got flame in the name or description, then it's probably good to go. But I'm also not allowing magma or lava-based spells, because that's not the same thing. Basically, it's like orange juice. I prefer the one without bits in it. With all that said, it was time to get things hotter than wearing a parka while sipping a ghost chili smoothie on a July day in Kuwait, so let's...
The all-knowing!
Do you mind? I'm trying to do my intro here. Thanks. Yeah, you know the name. Prophet as the starting class, face looking gloriously regal, golden seed as a gift fit for a king, clothes off because my beautiful skin is enough, and it was time for me to go forth and greet my friendly subjects. Oh dear, no. I absolutely couldn't face the world without the proper symbol of authority. So, my first and most important mission was obtaining my crown. I'll be back, pal. I ran to Gatefront and talked to my imaginary friend, who gave me an imaginary horse with equally imaginary poise, and then I hot-footed it straight up to Liurnia for the glintstone key. Well, that went amazingly smoothly.
Headshot.
Inside the academy, I ran past everything in shame at my naked face and grabbed the Olivinus crown from atop a rock. This headpiece reduces your HP by 10%, but it's the only one available before beating any bosses that can complete my look. And, on the plus side, it increases intelligence by 3 points. So, that's completely useless. Ah yes, the king is here to deliver, and I'm bringing that beef to your grill. Now my glow-up was complete, I could show my face in public once more. So, it was time to run some errands. I had a chat with Vare, who was shaping beef patties with his hands in my honour, stopped by Stormhill and grabbed some stones, spanked a pot, stole from the less needy, picked up some drinks to go with my meal deal, listened to some pompous idiots spout rubbish, and then turned off my last video and listened to Kenneth instead. Took a deep dive to the how can we shoehorn outer space into this game area to collect some useful runes and upgrade materials, and finally headed back to Liurnia to snatch up the Fire Monk's prayer book. Because it was about time I filled my big stupid head with knowledge. Now I had the prayer book, I decided to stop ghosting Melina and let her take me on a date to the worst party ever. At which point, she ditched me. Thanks. I handed in the prayer book to Corin, and it was time to go do some shopping. The Prophet class starts with Catch Flame, and Corin also sells Flame Sling by default, whilst giving him the book also unlocks O-Flame and Surge O-Flame. Who names these things, seriously? So, I popped some runes and bought up everything I could afford, levelled up my finger seal a touch, made small talk, and bounced. Yep, I'd rather be in Caelid. Specifically, sprinting past rabid hellbats in Fort Fareth for half a chocolate coin, before going down to Fort Height for the other half. Sheesh, fine, I guess I'll deal with Kenneth's little problem while I'm here. More shameless thievery followed. I reached Northern Liurnia completely seamlessly. Oh, that, don't worry, it's just a scratch. Took the lift of Dectus up to the Altus Plains, sprinted past Boat Granny to Seethwater River, and proceeded onwards to grab the Fire Scorpion charm from the top of Fort... Live? Yeah, there, anyway. This talisman increases physical damage taken by 10%, but boosts fire damage by 12%. So it's pretty much a no-brainer for this run. Finally, I returned to the round table, bought the remaining incantation from Wheelneck, leveled up myself and my flasks, and it was time to actually kill stuff.
Hi, I'm Stuff.
Shoo! Let's quickly talk about the fire incantations. Catch Flame is pretty great. It has a fairly fast cast and can be chained, staggers well, and pretty much carries the run until the later game. Flame Sling is kinda sluggish, but perfectly decent as a ranged option. O-Flame is a worse Catch Flame, and Surge O-Flame is about as useful as tits on a bull. With all that said, it was time to use Stormveil as my testing grounds, and it went a little like this. Godric, you're dead. Please shut up. I wasn't sure if I would end up needing to parry anything in this run, but I bought a buckler from Gostock just in case, and returned to the round table hold to meet Enya and her giant Kit Kat. Whilst there, I stopped to admire Nepheli some more, immediately went and cheated on her with fear, and procured a dagger for my troubles, before setting out into the big wide world again. And you know, sometimes only a montage will do. Okay, hold up. We all know how utterly busted this thing can be, so don't worry, I'm not going to abuse it for this run because it's just too cheap. But I did still want to grab it just so I can demonstrate it at some point. I also grabbed a couple of other things here. Flame Grant Me Strength gives a 30-second buff to fire damage of 20%, so is incredibly useful. As for Whirl O Flame... I'd rather eat ice cream made out of my own toenails. Thanks. One of these days, I'll actually bother to learn the Red Wolf fight properly. Today was not that day though, so I took advantage of the fact that fur is pretty flammable to bludgeon my way through for some important rewards, including another memory stone, the Radagon icon, which shortens casting time, and the Carolus Glintstone crown, which of course completes the classic King of Burgers look. Also, this one doesn't affect your HP, giving a 9% reduction to stamina instead. But given that the last thing I ran was a bath, who cares? Of course, you can't have a burger without a healthy, unhealthy dose of cheese. Hey, Moongram, can you just go up the elevator for me? I have no idea what actually happened there, but I'll gladly accept. I wanted to do some cleanup around the early areas before taking on Renala, so this is what I did. I went to Celia, met Gowry, and picked up the Spelldrake +1 talisman, which would come in useful for the next couple of fights. I danced around the tree sentinel like I almost knew what I was doing until he died. I chased a gill around a lake and burnt his nose a lot until he fell in love with me and gave me his heart.
Aww.
I met Bok, went and sautéed his entire family, and bought the Dragonfire incantation from the Church of Dragon Communion. I brought hot fiery death to a man cosplaying a burger bun and met another beautiful queen. I told Kenneth I'd got rid of his little issue, quickly hitless Darrywill, met a nice lady called Irina. Oh boy, I sure do hope her quest is uplifting. And rode to Castle Morn to throw some chicken nuggets in the fryer, before dying to Leonine Misbegotten. I mean, before beating Leonine Misbegotten, of course. I chilled with the boys on the beach, and then went to Murkwater Cave to give Patches a spicy warning. I killed the putrid avatar in Caelid, which is pretty easy given that wood and fire are kind of a classic combo. This guy drops the Flame Shrouding Crack tier, which gives a 20% boost to fire damage for a whopping 3 minutes, and also stacks with my other buffs. Woohoo! I leveled up a bit, brought the heat to Aiden in exchange for one of the most useless incantations of the run. Hold that thought though. Blitzed through Ruinstream Precipice for smithing stones, and got my seal up to +13, which is unlucky for some, especially if their name is Banana Head Egg Lady.
Banana head egg lady floats in her bowl. Her children are tiny, but she is so tall. The lock on is awful, I almost rage quit. But I burnt all her children and her to a crisp. She spams spells, she jumps back and spams spells. So you dodge and you burn, and she still spams her damn spells. Then she summons her friends and they all want to play. Stay away, let me flame you to death. And the queen finally drew her very last breath.
With Renala, not dead, I now had the ability to respec, which was great, since I didn't need it at all. And I decided to do some any other business in Liurnia. First, I hit up Carrier Manor. Now, this place is annoying as hell, unless you have the power of fire, in which case it's actually tragically easy. I grabbed the Sword of Night and Flame just because it has a flame weapon art, even though I had no intention of ever actually using it. And then, it was Loretta time. Once again, Spelldrake Talisman comes in handy here, but otherwise, it's just a case of baiting out her close range attacks and flaming her flanks, or dodging forwards through her magic spam and arrows. How do you set fire to a ghost exactly? Next, I grabbed the medallion piece from Albus and put down the Omen Killer. Took my revenge on Glintstone Dragon Smarag. Is it just me, or do all the dragon names in this game sound like they were just taken from some random word generator on the internet? And decided to indulge in some jolly uncooperation. This should be fun. I'm sure the community will welcome me with open arms and accept my flame-grilled whoppers. Oh, haha, yes. Classic Leonia. Let's try again. GG me? Again! Oh, good. A Moonveil user and Eleonora's pole blade. This is gonna be great. Well, look, if you're just gonna let me do that, thanks. Upon returning to my world, I discovered that my diet of nothing but pure prime beef had given me the power to destroy stone itself. Vade gave me a napkin to clean myself up, and I headed up to the 4 belfries to give the grafted scion an impromptu cooking class, wipe up a nasty ketchup spill, and grab the Stormhawk King Ashes so I could carry them around like pocket sand. Do you want to go to Mogwin? Cheers for that. Although I didn't need anything specific here, you can pick up some pretty juicy runes, so it was worth getting out of the way early. Finally, I had to visit the #1 dish on my menu. Oh hey girl, I love the way you bend that back for me. I spoke to this polite fella, bought Raya's necklace and 1 prawn, cause you never know when hunger will strike, and took the necklace back to my new queen. Sorry ladies, in exchange for an invite to her private quarters. Which is nice, but I'd stalled long enough. Time for Radahn. They say roasted bugs are the food of the future. I'm not convinced, so I went to Celia Crystal Tunnel to test it out, as well as collecting a bunch of Smithing Stone 5. Then did the same in Altus Tunnel, upped my seal to +15, leveled up, and I was ready for the big guy. Dodge the arrows, ride around the right hand side and circle around, and let's test out the damage. Flame Sling? Not bad. Catch Flame? Decent.
Let's see Radahn's damage.
Yep. I know what I did wrong there. I didn't have the right music. Take 2. The festival was done, Blythe nursed a hangover, and Alexander had the munchies.
The bodies found here are exceedingly fine.
Sure I can't tempt you with a bacon double cheeseburger instead? So, I met up with Raggedy Ann, because this is what you all want really.
Wilt thou enter into my vast crater?
I gave the dagger to Dee, and he died disturbingly distorted by Deathblight. I descended down to Nokron, where I dutifully dispatched a despicable doppelganger. I think his name was Ronald or something. Lit up all the barbecues, and went to get me some venison. This fight was surprisingly annoying. Firstly, because it was first thing in the morning when I did it, and I had the reflexes of a pebble. And secondly, because Catch Flame would miss him as often as it would hit. But the Regal Ancestor Spirit quickly became another notch on my remembrance's bedpost, I grabbed the Fingerslayer blade from Night's Sacred Ground and traded it in with the doll for a crappy statue. Wow. Shh! Nobody tell him I'm here.
Have you ever felt the curse? With your whole being?
Weirdo. My six-pack queen was doing the big sad, so I gave her the ashes I'd been carrying around in my... I'm not sure really where I'd been carrying them. And it made her less sad. And then I went to Volcano Manor to meet my scoliosis queen and buy Margit's shackle from Patches. I would return to complete the manor later, but for now there was still a couple of useful items I could grab from this area. Firstly, I killed the nearby ulcerated tree spirit. Unpopular opinion, but I actually love fighting these things. They're good fun. Sadly, I had underestimated the gravity of the situation. But I wasn't going to make that mistake twice. The tree spirit turned to charcoal, and I was the proud owner of the Cerulean Hidden Tear. This physic eliminates all FP consumption for 15 seconds, which is particularly useful for stacking buffs at the start of a fight. So, it would stay in my flask along with the flame tier for most of the remainder of the run. I also picked up Golden Vow from nearby, which boosts damage and defense for 80 seconds and stacks with Flame Grant Me Strength. Handy. The people of the lands between wouldn't know good food if it walked up to them and slapped them in the face with a flame spell. Hey, Melina, what's your favourite food?
Butter.
See? It was about time for the king to bring his hot flame grilled menu to the masses. Like this guy. Another satisfied customer. I made sure to pick up the Golden Order Principia after the boss fight, purchase Law of Regression from Corrin, respec to Int, and I was ready for Elden Ring's big reveal. So, skip ahead now if you don't want spoilers. I know, right, Goldmask? I thought he was alive all along. Shit was crazy, huh? Whew. I was feeling particularly friendly this run, so I decided to help Millicent next, which would involve taking out O'Neill. This wasn't particularly challenging, just remove the grunts from the equation and then abuse the age-old secret strat of, walking left a lot. O'Neill dropped the needle and I gave it to Millicent for her to do... Oh. Next up, I headed to Shaded Castle, grabbed Millie a new arm, fought the fearsome duo boss of Elemer of the Briar and his stupid boss room, moseyed on up to Dominula, where I came out on top in a grilling competition against one of those wacky waving inflatable tube men, gave the prosthesis to Millicent, took a quick trip to Mogwyn Blood Lake for the Haligdrake +2 talisman, and it was time for Morgott.
Pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Did somebody say flame? As long as you have Margit's shackle, the first half of this fight is a breeze. Buff up, run up to him, shackle, catch flame to the face, move away when he recovers, as he will probably do the Rain of Swords, wait for your next opening and shackle again, and that should see you into phase 2. Then, it's just a case of picking moves to punish. The spear charge is a good one, as are both his Bloodblade attacks, which have a long window at the end. And although the first cast of Catch Flame isn't exactly the fastest, it can be chained, so this is a good opportunity for multiple casts. Morgott was felled by my flames of ambition at the second time of asking. I tried to enter the Erd Tree, but a tree machine broke. So I proceeded up through the Forbidden Lands to the mountaintops of the Giants, where it was finally time for me to level up my arsenal. At the top of Guardian's Garrison, you can pick up the Giant's Prayer Book, and giving this to any of the clerics, such as this lovable dog Pope, lets you buy the 2 best flame incantations in the game. Giant's Flame Take Thee, and Flame Fall Upon Them. So let's talk about these for a sec. Giant's Flame Take Thee lobs a powerful flaming meatball at enemies, and although it's expensive, taking up 2 memory slots and costing 32 FP per cast, it's superb on smaller sized enemies and bosses due to its high knockdown potential. It can also be charged for extra damage and a wider AoE, but I wouldn't have the time to exploit that in most fights. Flame Fall Upon Them shoots out a number of smaller fireballs, and whilst each individual hit doesn't do enormous damage, this is good for larger enemies with big health pools, as connecting all the shots will still do a decent chunk, plus it has the advantage of only costing 18 FP per cast. Time to check them out.
No, Ranny, you were so pretty and now you're just spare ribs.
I guess I should finish off your quest though. I walked from Renner's Rise to Noxtella, sprinted past just about everything, coaxed Ranny out of retirement. Hurry up though please, it's freezing. And then it was time to try these hot new toys out. Guess he couldn't stand the heat. Get out of my kitchen, Scrublord. There's nothing quite like being double teamed by Scarlet Rot and a giant space dildo bug to bring my arrogance crashing back down to earth. So I did exactly that. Here's how it went. Yay! Oh, you want some too, Cold Wings? I just turned your little bug brother downstairs into hot sauce, mate. Don't think I won't crap on you with the force of 1,000 suns too. As always with the dragons, boot the snoot, easy 120k. Next, it was time to make sure that the gargoyles are still the worst boss in the game. Yep. I talk more about this fight, but quite frankly, they do not deserve the attention. May they die in obscurity. I took a nap in a coffin, woke up in a beautiful neighbourhood, char-grilled some ants for some rune arcs, and took on fierce champions, who basically consisted of Sorcerer Rogier and a bunch of people who actually knew what they were doing. No specific strat for this one, just kite them around and throw fiery stuff at them. Easy peasy. Thea was so impressed that she let me motorboat her and then promptly died, and it was time for Fortis Axe. Look, I know everyone loves the Farum Fatty, but this is my favourite dragon fight of the game. Come on, you big sexy vaporwave lizard. I also don't know it very well, but just like every other dragon, Fortnite Sucks is particularly weak to a giant fireball to the face. And despite the lightning strikes catching me out a few times, it only took 2 tries to bring 46 back down to earth with a whimper. Thanks for the rune, Thea. I'll be sure to store it in my box of completely pointless items. You know what's even better than the Giant's Flame incantations? Giant's Flame incantations cast with the Giant's Seal, which gives a 20% boost to all Giant's Flame and Fire Monk incantations. Sadly, this does not include Catch Flame, but using it is still a no-brainer. The seal can be obtained from the giant conquering hero's grave in the mountain tops, in a room with a fire prelate. I also made sure to get all the smithing stone bell bearings from the Crystalian, the sealed tunnel in Altus, and the Zamor ruins, and it was time for the best area in the game, if you hate yourself. Anyone for roasted lobster tail? Wish.com Moog could do one. The only reason I was here was for all the smithing stones and the shackle. So I levelled the giant seal up to plus 22, and it was time to catch up with some old pals. They say the real treasure was the friends we met along the way, who inexplicably died because it's a FromSoft game and... Oh, you're still alive? And you've got a happy ending? This is highly unorthodox, Miyazaki. Goldmask was also still as alive as a zombie cosplaying a sunflower can be, so we T-posed together to assert dominance over Corin, and I went to Altus to ensure that Bogart's quest would end suitably.
I got crab, cooked up fresh.
No crab! Only burger! Although, I'll take your crab as well, thanks. I figured I'd head back to the manor to check up on... Raya! Your dress is unbuttoned! Oh my. Remember earlier when I mentioned how busted Flame of the Redmanes is, but how I still wanted to show it off at some point? Well, this is that point. The reason I picked the Godskin Noble is because I watched a friend of mine use the Ash in this fight, and it was laughable how trivial it made it. So, I upgraded a dagger, slapped the Ash on it, and here we go. All it takes is 2 casts of Flame of the Redmanes to break the Noble's posture each time, which on a melee build would open him up for a riposte, but in my case just gave me a window to spam flames at him. This thing is so effective that it can even trigger the stagger while he's in the middle of his donut impersonation. So, yeah. I'm not touching this thing again, there's only so much cheese I want with my burger. With the Noble dead, I gave Raya the most romantic gift I could think of, which prompted her to beg me to kill her. Sorry girl, but no, that's a level of kinkiness even I'm not comfortable with. Castle Sol sounds like it should be a really nice place, like the Costa del Sol or something. Oh boy, is that really not the case. Luckily, I have Nile down to a T now, so there wasn't much hanging around really. This strat works for most builds. Go right as soon as you enter the fog, and it should give you time to take out the first summon. Nile stays passive until both of them die, so pick off the second one, and once he goes electric, just keep distance and he will spam the same moves over and over. Either the leaping leg attack or the dash and thrust. The leaping attack is the most common one, and he always follows it up with a prod, which you can either sidestep left, parry, or roll back from, as I did in this case to give myself space to cast. If he does the big AoE, then just run away. Otherwise, this is simple stuff, as shown here. With the second medallion piece, I could pay a visit to another place that isn't as nice as it seems. Yep. Here's a little tip though. With Fever's cookbook from Limgrave, some cracked pots, mushrooms, and some Trina's lilies, you can craft sleep pots. Hush-a-bye baby on the rooftops. As pretty as the Halig tree is, I wanted to be as strong as possible before tackling it. So, I raided the Moonlight Altar area for some smithing stone 8, collected some more from Yellow Annex Tunnel, maxed out my giant seal at plus 25, and levelled up. After nuking everything in sight in the Tree of Hell, I was ready to face Loretta. Now, I've made a few tongue-in-cheek comments before about how easy I find this boss, and I know that some of you disagree. So, I figured I'd just show you the whole fight, since I don't usually feature this one so much. Melina, music please. Millicent was just hanging around looking all cool, so I said hi before making my way through Elfvale, where, despite all of the garbage the game tried to throw at me, the deadliest enemy still proved to be myself, as I got distracted by the Twitch stream I had on in the background. After making sure I picked up the Dragon Crest Greatshield talisman, I got down to the real reason I was here. No, not her, I'll be back. I meant my bionic friend. I was in the mood for takeout, and by that, I mean take out this annoying tree spirit from the safety of a nearby branch. And then, it was time to help Millicent defeat her sisters. This fight can be a bit irritating due to how squishy Millie is at times, and keeping her alive for the duration is the real battle. But, she goes ahead and dies anyway, because this is a FromSoft game. Go figure. Both siding with her or her sisters rewards you with a decent talisman, but neither was the real reason I was here. Completing her quest will make Gowry drop Flock's Canvas Talisman upon death. This talisman boosts all incantation potency by 8%, so of course it's a must for any faith build. Just a quick note that you can get this by killing Millicent earlier in the quest, but of course, as I've said before, I'm all about the lore. I was feeling a little bit low on memory slots, so I went and obtained a couple of extra memory stones. One from killing demi-human Queen Maggie in Mount Gelmir, and another from the top of Celavis's Rise. And with my new loadout, it was time to take on the biggest unit of them all. Now, you'd think a boss called Fire Giant might be an issue on a run where I can only do fire damage. But, surprisingly enough, he only has a fire absorption rating of 50. In case you don't know what that means, it means that he absorbs 50% of my fire damage. So, my incantations only do half of their max damage. However, his weak spots take extra damage anyway, so really this was much easier than I'd expected. For phase 1, buff after the fog, jump on Torrent, and then iframe off him to avoid the snowplow. If he leaps, that's the best RNG for the start, as it leaves you right next to his ankle. Break the shackle and do as much damage as possible before he rolls away. Then, just make sure his fireballs are always cleared and hang around his ankles to bait out the punishes. All of his big stomp moves are great as you end up perfectly positioned after dodging, and if you learn the position of the fire columns when he does his AoE, that gives you a huge window to pepper him with flame. Phase 2 triggered, and Fire Giant tried to bring barbecue to a burger cookout. Haha, what a douche. Everyone roast him. For this phase, I stayed off the horse as much as possible to try and bait out his slams while staying locked onto his chest, only using Torrent to escape fireballs or his flame belly spew. Hitting his open breast eye does extra damage. Like, wow, his HP bar actually showed some yellow, so that's nice. And then, it was just a matter of playing the patient game and managing my FP to finish off the battle. I'm the only legend round here, pal. The Fire Giant's Remembrance is the only one that gives anything useful for this run, in the form of the Burn O Flame incantation. It's Firestorm. I refuse your new nomenclature. Although it doesn't outperform the other spells in my kit bag, it still has plenty of uses, as you'll see soon enough. For now, I was disgusted by the absolute state my staff had let my restaurant get into, so it was time to slap on some tunes, slip on some rubber gloves, nope, horny jail for you, and get down to some cleaning. That's better, clean house, clean mind, and so on. Now I could relax as I prepared to get shish kebabbed up the backside for the next 8 hours. Or so you might think. Actually, this was a lot simpler than I'd expected, thanks to the silent MVP of the run. No, really, I told you it had one use. Let me demonstrate. Ta-da! Here's the strat then. Keep distance so she edge walks and cast Flame of the Fell God. Then switch to your spicy meatball when she's on the ground. She will tend to stand straight up again after this, but Firestorm can come in handy here. Using Giant's Flame Take Thee without the stagger first can be pretty ineffective, except when she's already committed to certain moves, as she'll just input read it and dodge otherwise. This strat can zip through phase 1, with one slight problem.
You done fucked up now! You done fucked up now! You done fucked up now! You done fucked up now!
That wasn't even a highlights reel. That footage was all from one attempt. So that's fun. Of course, this is Malenia's most notorious attack. So here's how I usually deal with it. As I was keeping distance naturally, running away from the first flurry was never an issue. After that, I prefer to dodge back through the second flurry, and then turn round and dodge back and away from the final one. Light equip load really helps here. As for phase 2, well, Flame of the Fell God is nowhere near as effective here, since she hops around so much. So, just gotta get above average, I guess. All in all, it went a little like this. When I was planning this run, there was only one boss that really concerned me. And it wasn't the one I'd just done. Yep, Snaky Jake here has a whopping 80 fire absorption, which is not surprising since he literally bathes in the stuff. And on top of that, he has a whopper of a health bar. So normal flames simply wouldn't do it. But I did have an ace up my sleeve that I'd been saving for this moment. Black Flame. You see, Black Flame incantations do fire damage, but also apply a burn over time effect that chunks a fixed percentage of health relative to the boss's total HP. It's not a big chunk, but it's a damn sight more effective than the alternatives. So I grabbed the Godslayer prayer book and seal from behind the Stonesword key door in Stormvale, and it was time for the hardest, and by far the longest fight of the run. Although spells have good range in this fight, it's best to stay fairly close up, mainly because it makes it slightly easier to avoid his utterly cracked ground explosion. But it also prevents him doing his poison spit so much, which can be really irritating to deal with. Yeah, nope, again. Pick a direction and keep circling, baiting out the head slams and punishing with Black Flame, and then switching to scouring Black Flame if you get the stagger. Once phase 2 begins and Rykard strings up his fiery skull bunting everywhere, you know it's really party time. The circle and counter strat is the same, but this time you want to keep distance to make it easier to outspace his attacks and then move back into punish, staying aware of the explosions. You can throw a couple of cheeky fireballs at him when he starts to summon the wrath of Satan itself, but then the best way to deal with this rubbish is to run towards the furthest edge of the arena from him and circle around it, outpacing the skulls. As long as you're far enough away from him, you can take your eyes off him completely, as his Blasphemous Blade weapon art won't ever actually reach you. Patience is key for this fight. To give you some indication, the winning attempt took almost 17 minutes, so you have to stay focused for a long time. Here are some of the highlights from it. Holy crap. Yum, that looks delicious, Tanith. Can I have the recipe? It was time to go and use my imaginary friend as kindling. I'll miss you, strange underused lady, whatever your name is. Still, I could drown my sorrows in the party capital of Furamazula, where everyone just wants to have a good time. I even met a swinger couple who wanted me to join them. But the king is a man of standards, so I politely declined their offer. No Flame of the Redmanes this time, I was going legit, and this was pretty simple and only took 2 tries. I mainly used Flamefall upon them, as it can hit both Godskins at once, even if they're not right next to each other. And I was helped by the fact that their fireballs get blocked by the broken pillars, but yours don't. Abuse the pillars again whenever Big Bertha does the Michelin tire, and just keep kiting around, keeping broken pillars in the way for the dubs. The party was far from over, so I progressed through the area, clearing out all the dancing birds, avoiding the DJ who threatened me with glow sticks, petted a few dogs, and taught my old mate Banal a thing or two about the power of fire. Banal, of course, drops the Blasphemous Claw, which is also, of course, completely pointless. Ooh, I wonder what's down here. Oof, I feel rough. That was some party, huh, Plassy? This is what society would look like if Malekith wasn't made of tissue paper. Sadly, he is. So, after removing the real final boss of the area from the equation, to give myself some semblance of a challenge, it was time to chuck hot stuff at hot stuff. Till he succumbed pathetically. I wasn't even playing particularly well and finished him off second try, because, damn, everyone look at his tiny health bar and laugh. Seriously, as long as you don't get caught by one of his wombo combos, this is easy as you like. We don't talk about the first attempt. Laendell was looking kinda ashy. Corrin was looking kinda completely devastated. Good, F that guy. Goldmask was looking only a tiny bit more dead than usual, but thanks for this gift. And then I had the small problem of Gideon to deal with. Now, Gideon is a boss who is easy to underestimate, with his constant spam of high damaging spells and his ability to heal. Of course, like most sane people, you wouldn't know that because you'll have killed him before he's even finished flapping his gums. For someone so all-knowing, you'd think he might have seen that one coming. Twat. The longest journey was almost over, but I couldn't help feeling like I'd forgotten something. Oh yeah, this guy. Alright, BRB, quick in and out. Oh. Man, I really should check these things out beforehand. Okay, let's take that one back, Mr. DJ. It's time for the Black Flame remix.
Disclaimer, I really suck at this fight.
I'm just gonna say it. This absolute specimen of a man should have been the final boss. A king knows a king when he sees one, and Godfrey is the chattiest king of them all. At least, that's how I feel when I fight him melee. With the twin powers of fire and distance, he's pretty easy to bait out attacks from and punish. Pretty much everything he does in Phase 1 can be punished from distance, except when he keeps stomping, in which case, just ride it out until he gets bored. His stomps are pretty easy to dodge, as the timing is so regular and telegraphed. You can just run around his big ground AoE to make it easier to outspace, and it's no sweat getting him to Phase 2. Of course, once he rips off his fur coat and smears himself in ketchup, your windows are a lot smaller for casting. But moves like his leaping grab, the ground slam, and his big AoE can all be punished as long as you don't hang around. Godders might have more HP than Furry Death Boy did, but this was still over as disappointingly quickly as my last romantic encounter. Yes, I am referring to Hugging Fear. Godfrey gave me his crown and said, "Here, you dropped this, king." And I was ready to finish in style. But of course, the Burger King is a man of the people, and I had plenty of them to say goodbye to.
Goodbye to all our friends, we had fun till the very end. Goodbye to all our friends that we met in the lands between. Goodbye to all our friends, we had fun till the very end. Goodbye to all our friends that we met in the lands between.
I have no idea who those guys were. Time to finally enter my new flagship restaurant in time for the grand opening. Oh, looks like the builders are still here. First up was Radagon, who threw some fries at me. Man, he really wanted me to have his fries. Like, really? He can also catch up to you pretty quick. Okay, yes, I'm ashamed of that one. Deal with it. I'm going to be honest here, Radagon is very close to being a great boss, but his excessive spamminess at times pushes him right over the edge into just being a really annoying one. On the plus side, fire is one of the best elements to hit him with, but on the downside, he'll parry half of it for breakfast and return it to you with a side serving of holy pain. He can be extremely hard to read at times due to the way he'll sometimes chain moves that most of the time would have a cooldown afterwards. When he teleports 5,000 times in a row, that's what's known in the business as a total dick move, and when you get him down to his last bit of HP, he tends to go all John Wick dead dog mode on you. So, on these types of builds, it's difficult to reach the end of this phase with a lot of heals left, even with Lord's Divine Fortification on to negate a lot of the holy damage, because he will still Nightcrawler right into your face mid-casting animation that slap you all the way into Elden Ring 2. Fortunately, I know the Elden Beast phase of the fight so well by now that I'm pretty confident in my own ability to get through it with very few heals as long as I have enough FP. Which is good, because 2 Crimson Flasks was all I had at this point. Game face on, it was time for me and interdimensional Nessie to dance the last dance.
That's how I roll. I have 1 speed, I have 1 gear. Go!
How do you survive that?
Because I'm me. Because I'm me, I'm different. I just have a different constitution, I have a different brain, I have a different heart, I have a different, I get tiger blood, man. What I'm harnessing now is absolute, focus. It's fine, but for me, it's I've just answered to a higher calling. It happened in the blink of an eye. I'm totally excited by it, Yeah, I am on a drug. It's called Charlie Sheen. It's not available because if you try it once, you will die. Your face will melt off, and your children will weep over your exploded body. Too much. The run I was on made Sinatra, Flynn, Jagger, Richards, all of them just look like, droopy-eyed, armless children. I expose people to magic. I expose them to something they're never otherwise going to see in their boring, normal lives, and I gave that to them. I may forget about them tomorrow, but they'll live with that memory for the rest of their life, and that's a gift, man. Can't is the cancer of happen. I can't do it. The Nike slogan doesn't say, just try it. Oh, okay, just try it. No, just do it, man.
Here you go, love. Think you dropped this? I used Goldmask's rune to do something. I'm not sure what, but I think it was okay. The final cutscene played, and the tastiest challenge run in the lands between was over. I had beaten Elden Ring as the Burger King. Well, I'd beaten the tutorial at least. Time for the real first boss of the game. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and of course thank you to Burger King for giving me the opportunity to do this in the first place. And if you enjoyed my content, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for plenty more of the same.